What's up, guys? I've been doing some digging around and some research to find out some more information, and I do have more information on the upcoming title, Deus Ex Humanity Divided, a title I think many of us are interested in, some of us, who knows, I'm interested in it, so I'll tell you about it. Now, unfortunately, this is a German site called GameStar, pretty well-known German site, and couldn't find any corresponding site in English. So, yeah, I'm just going to summarize what's here. If you're German or speak or read German, then I will be posting a link so you can check it out for yourself. But some interesting tidbits, some interesting pieces of information as pertaining to the up-and-coming title. Now, what I thought was really interesting, perhaps the most interesting thing, the title of the piece, the article in German, is Unplanned Resurrection. And this is particularly interesting because this unplanned resurrection is actually referring to Adam Jensen himself. That is to say that Adam Jensen was never supposed to come back. According to the main writer, Mary DeMarle, she claimed that there was no plan for Adam Jensen to ever come back in any title that would follow Deus Ex Human Revolution. Basically, his story was done. So, the question is, what happened? What happened to Adam Jensen? What happened to make her, that is, Mary DeMarle, change her mind? Marketing happened. Consumption happened. The consumer spoke up. Well, the reality is, many of us like the character of Adam Jensen. He had an iconic aura to him, and he had an iconic voice actor. And so basically, based on the feedback from the previous game, the marketing team at Eidos said, you know what, maybe it's not a good idea to just let him die. We're going to bring him back. So I guess on some level that's forced. And the question that the article poses is, given that Adam Jensen was not planned to come back originally and market demanded that he come back, how is that going to be handled? And it seems unclear. This writer, Mary DeMarle, seems to suggest that, yeah, there's a lot more to tell about Adam Jensen's story. And, I'm one of these people that's happy he's coming back. And I have a further suggestion. The idea of a Deus Ex trilogy, focusing around 5 or 6 year time period, with the first and second parts obviously involving Jensen, as well as the third part involving Jensen, is something I not only wouldn't be averse to, but very interested in. Heroic trilogies involving video game characters, protagonists, are popular, can be popular. I mean, look at Mass Effect. You followed the story of John or James Shepard through 3 different titles. We all know how we feel about Mass Effect 3, but yeah, there you have it. Immensely popular character. Now, I will admit, I'm the first one to admit that, as far as I can see, Commander Shepard never experiences any sort of character development in transitioning from 1 to 2 to 3. He's always this gun-ho soldier who can take on anything and do whatever he wants, and the intrepid yet not infallible leader. He makes mistakes, but he pushes forward anyway. There was no real character development in Shepard, and despite him discovering new things, whatever. In the event of a trilogy, and I don't see it as impossible depending on what happens in this upcoming title, but at the very least in this second title, I'd like to see some character development in Jensen. I'd like to see how he's moved on. I mean, is he still the guy who's saying, I never asked for any of this? Probably not. And we've seen the trailer, he says, sometimes you have to embrace what you've become. So he's probably put that all past him, I imagine. I would have to imagine that. Maybe not. Maybe there are still some niggling doubts. But yeah, this guy, hopefully we'll see some character development. We'll see some change, some personal evolution, some experience-based insight into what he's become and his relationship to the rest of the world. We can only hope for that. If that comes to pass, well, we'll just have to wait. But as I said, I could well envision a trilogy for the Deus Ex franchise. They had Deus Ex Human Revolution, then comes this, and then some grand finale that hopefully would be done a lot better than the Mass Effect 3 finale was for the Mass Effect series. Who knows? But yeah, as I said, not planned, but by popular demand, Adam Jensen's back. And on that note, the other interesting tidbit of information is that the endings that we chose in the previous title are irrelevant and relevant at the same time, if that makes any sense. What do I mean by that? Well, let me give you a little background. This is my own speculation, but I suspect that when Eidos was making this game originally, and of course it came out in 2011, so they were developing it, this long time ago now, 7 years, 8 years ago. They never suspected that it would be as popular as it did become, and so all these endings were meant to have some sort of finality to them, and you decide there were 4 different endings. For those of you who don't remember, in Deus Ex Human Revolution, you can choose the Hugh Darrow ending, which basically involves revealing everything that happened, no holding back to the people out there, everything. William Taggart was the guy who was worried about augmentations and wanted to regulate it, and you could take his side, and supposedly you start regulating things, and actually, that ultimately, I think that strengthens the Illuminati, which is the main antagonist, or the group of antagonists in the game's position. You could go the David Sarif route, your then employer, who basically says, just blame it on the humanity front, and blame it on the pro-humans, and then, if we do that, then we'll have more flexibility and mobility in developing augmentation technology. And you can just self-destruct and say, well, I'm not wise enough, and Hugh Darrow is not, and humanity should do its own thing. Now, whatever happened back then is no longer relevant, and so, in a way, according to this article, what Eidos has done is said, basically, and we could call this a cop-out, but hear me out. Basically, in the chaos that ensued, that those series of events, after all the chaos, the harm, the destruction, nobody was paying attention to anything. So whether Adam Jensen chose to just reveal all the information, or blame it on the humanity front, or blame it on Neuropozyne, and we'll talk about Neuropozyne in a bit, it's just, who knows? It was just too much chaos, and in the ensuing chaos, everything got lost. So according to what I've read in this article, the only people who actually know what happened are, I imagine, the holographic, computer projection Elijah Wood, or whatever the hell her name is. Eliza, that's her name, and Adam Jensen himself. All right? So, there's that. So, and it's explained in this article that, on the one hand, Adam Jensen is working for an official organization. It's not Serif Industries anymore. It is a task force, essentially, a anti-terrorist task force. I think it's Task Force 29, it's called. And by the way, Malik is definitely dead. She's not coming back. So if you ever decide to redo Human Revolution, just let her die. Do your thing. Just got to be brutal about that. Now, having said that, Adam Jensen, as I said, he has his own agenda, because he's the only one that knows what went down in the events of Deus Ex Human Revolution. So he's got his own little thing. He's got kind of a score to settle, and how he handles that, who knows? But let's hope to see some character development there. Now, on a final note, story-related stuff, I want to talk about game mechanics in a little bit. Neuropozyne. Now, Neuropozyne was this chemical that allowed normal humans to accept augments without the body rejecting them. As many of you know, the normal human body over time rejects augmentations, and this results in incredible, indescribable pain. And Neuropozyne is a chemical, a drug that allows them to tolerate it. And unfortunately, Neuropozyne has addictive properties, and so once you're augmented, you're basically stuck on Neuropozyne. You're dependent on it. And of course, the Illuminati help control the Neuropozyne flow, among other things, and thus have a great deal of power and influence. Now, as many of you might have to know if you played Deus Ex Human Revolution, Adam Jensen is unique. Rather, he has a unique genome. Maybe because of an accident he had when he was young, it's hypothesized. Not entirely sure, but regardless, he has a unique property. He is the only human that can naturally accept augmentations and doesn't reject them. In fact, his body readily accepts them, and he just sort of melds with them. And I think it was hypothesized in Human Revolution, in some commentaries and some other things, that the degree of augmentation that Adam Jensen received after his accident, if you will, where his body just torn to bits, no other human could have survived that. But because he possesses this unique genome, he can accept the augments. I mean, if you look at his body, he basically just has a neck and a head left. Everything else, maybe with the exception of some parts of his chest and what have you, it's augments, or augmentations rather. So that's a unique thing. The question is, and I think a really important question that's central to the story, or at least could be central to the story, is part of the mystery in Deus Ex Human Revolution is, why was Sarif and Sarif Industries, specifically the business he was running, interested in Adam Jensen to hire him as a personal guard? His ex-lover Megan was interested, all because Adam Jensen possessed this unique genome. Now, if this was such a core element and so important in the previous title, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to assume that there's going to be some relevance of that in the up-and-coming title, Humanity Divided. I can't imagine this just dropping that. Is neuropozyne still around? Well, if you want to be true to the story and the canon and be consistent, I think you would have to have neuropozyne still. And in 2 years, could you develop some sort of gene therapy so everyone kind of accepts it? I don't know. Considering also that Adam Jensen was never a public figure. He was working undercover even for Sarif and Sarif Industries, and the events that transpired in the chaos, the precise information was lost. No one really knows what went down except Jensen. I doubt many people are running around with duplicates of his genes or have been exposed to gene therapy in order to better tolerate augmentations. So I assume that Adam Jensen is still pretty unique in this regard. Very interesting just to speculate about this, and I'm interested to see how the developers, and specifically the story writer, Mary, handles that, but we'll just have to wait and see. Moving on to game-related elements. Now, one thing that I had mentioned in the previous video, my thoughts on E3, was a criticism of how stealth and non-lethal was just overly rewarded by way of comparison to in-your-face, take-them-down kind of approaches. And I think a lot of people felt that way. And according to this article, according to fan and customer feedback, because many people had registered complaints and mentioned this, Eidos has kind of reworked the system. Now, what exactly they've done is not mentioned. But the implication, at least in the article, is that the experience system, the fact that you got twice as many for non-lethal takedowns or just stealth approaches than up in your face approach, it made any other approach, yeah, viable, sure, but if you wanted to get new augmentations and gather experience, you just had to take the stealth route, right? You were flexible, you could kind of do what you wanted, but the stealth route was still the best as far as experience was concerned, right? According to Eidos, according to developers, that's not the case anymore. You can literally, this time, play as you want and not worry too much about experience. Without having revealed too many of the details of that, though, I'm not sure exactly what happens. But apparently you have almost twice as many offensive, in-your-face augmentations available as in the previous game. So that would be an indication to me that that is a very viable play style, using your built-in miniguns or your PEPs. That, by the way, that shock force thing you see in the trailer, that is, remember the PEPs gun, which sent out waves of concussive force that sort of knocked enemies out? That's going to be an obvious augmentation. So hopefully lethal force and in-your-face fighting is going to be a real option that's going to award you on the same level as stealth. And I think both should be awarded equally. I mean, if you want to go the stealthy route, you should go the stealthy route because that's what you want to do as a player, not because, oh shit, I get 200, 300 more experience points if I go stealth as opposed to just shooting them in the head. I'm going to take that route. It should be a role-playing choice, not a choice based on experience. If you want to kill people lethally, you should do that. And you should get the same experience, in my opinion, as just doing non-lethal takedowns. Is it harder to do non-lethal takedowns and drag the bodies out? Sure, but that's part of the role-playing experience. I don't think you should necessarily get more experience just for doing that. And I hope they've implemented that. I hope at least it's very close in the amount of experience you get. Because, you know, assuming I do, and I'll get to that in a second, the different possible endings, more than one playthrough, and I think that's almost certainly going to be the case, I'm going to do a stealth playthrough, but I also want to fucking do one with blades in your face, you know, busting out the built-in miniguns, just, you know, really kind of Rambo effect, if you will. I want to play that way as well and be rewarded for it, not just think, oh, I lost all this experience. And apparently they've learned as well, if you want to get the different endings, and there are different endings, you have to play through the whole game in a different way. It's not going to just be, oh, 4 choices, press the button, which is really, really nice. Not because it forces you to play the game all over again, but because it forces you to play the game in a completely different way, take different decisions, speak to people in a different way, etc. That's going to be really, really interesting. So, all in all, that's kind of what's going on. A little bit of information on the game mechanics. Like I said, it looks like both playstyles or different playstyles are going to be equally rewarded. You got the story. A lot of things still not revealed, but the biggest thing was Adam Jensen wasn't planned. But we'll see how they implement that. So anyway, thanks for watching. I do plan on doing a video not in the not too distant future on Cyberpunk 77, because that is sort of the same genre, you know, future dystopia. So I'll see you guys soon, and as always, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.